I am delighted to welcome our next speaker, Alexandra Buor. She is the Design Business Unit Director at Fit Retail in Paris. A little bit about Alexandra. She is a digital process advisor and believes new technology has the ability to reduce waste and transform fashion into a more sustainable industry. She began her career as a garment technologist in a Parisian atelier and Eastern European factories, where she spent 8 years working in product development for luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and Saint Laurent. After 15 years in fashion, she discovered the power of 3D, and today she works, sleeps, and eats 3D, working with companies to rethink their process with technology, just like us at 3D Tech Fest. Here to tell us about how to improve CSR with 3D new technologies is Alexandra. Alexandra, welcome. Take it away.
Hi, thank you. Hi everyone. So today I'm going to show you how to improve CSR with 3D and new technologies. Sol already introduced me, so I won't spend too much time, but I just wanted to introduce Fit Retail, who is an agnostic advising company specialized in digital transformation for the fashion industry. And we follow projects in PLM, 3D, and IT architecture. And we are based in France and Germany. So if you want to know more details about Fit Retails, please check out our website or contact me via LinkedIn or email. So, as we all know, fashion has accelerated its mutation since the pandemic, and consumers have changed their consuming and dress habits, especially due to remote work. Climate change is becoming more and more an emergency, and the fashion industry is top two of the best polluters. So, with all that, we must change and think differently and adapt our industry in a better way. So, today, CSR is taking more place in companies' vision, and laws in Europe are pushing brands to change. So, I'm going to show you how 3D and new technologies can help in reaching out CSR and ecological expectation. I'm mainly going to talk about laws in Europe, but this is a global change, and for sure, at some point, laws will also affect Asian and US markets. So just keep watching. So, to begin with, I will quickly remind you the challenges of CSR or corporate social responsibility. It is not a certification, but an approach and a transformation of the company to reach a sustainable mindset with a commitment to humans and the environment. So all types of companies can implement a CSR approach, regardless of the size, the status, or the sector of activity. It is not compulsory, but CSR meets the requirements of the ecological transition to a great extent. So this is a very micro picture because the subject is very broad and not part of my field of expertise, but I take part of the puzzle and that can help to reach that sustainable mindset. In Europe, we also have the Extended Producer Responsibility Laws, or EPR for short. This concept was introduced by Thomas Lindqvist from Sweden in 1990. Then the German took this idea to hold producers responsible for managing their packaging waste. And then between 1993 and 1996, packaging waste reduced to 84%. So since European countries have followed the same concept, and this is when we started to see recycling bins. So in the same vein, France has introduced EPR regulations in textile waste in 2022, and is the first country to do this in the world. Since January 1st, 2022, brands in France are not allowed to destroy their unsold goods, and they must donate or recycle. Brands, retailers, and online retailers willing to sell on French territory must register to a take-back system, and retailers must pay an eco-contribution fees according to the quantity sold. Fees are reduced if the product materials are sustainable, then the fees are used for waste management such as recycling. Sweden has adopted EPR for textiles and clothing since January 2022, and it will begin in 2024. Then we have Netherlands, who is aiming to implement it for 2023. We have UK, Bulgaria, and Spain, who have committed to review and consult on an EPR for textiles, and they are working at the moment on the draft laws with a similar system. And these laws are closely followed by the European Union and may become an EU regulations to standardize everything. Following the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, France has adopted the Climate and Resilience Law in August 2021 to aim a decrease by 40% of carbon footprint by 2030. For the fashion industry, brands will have to inform consumers by an eco-store label, an eco-score, sorry, for each garment. So grade A as being the very sustainable and grade EF as very not sustainable. So it is actually under experimental phase and it's not compulsory yet. The starting date has been postponed actually quite regularly, but once the date will be set, brands will have to be ready for this. Actually, some brands are testing it, and it seems to be highly appreciated by consumers. So watch out for this. Let's now have a look at the consumer's perception. That's just a quick recall on fashion being as top two best polluter in the world. That's a good price behind the oil industry. So that's just some figures to upset you. Knowing that a European buys 26 kilos of clothes and throws away 11, we are 446 million Europeans. So just need to calculate, that's a bit huge. Then we need 2,700 liters of water to make one t-shirt in 100% cotton, which is equivalent to 1.5 intake per day for one person, like normal minimum. Then we have 20% of our drinking water in the world that is polluted by dyes and finishing treatments. And finally, we have 10% of carbon dioxide emission in the world that is generated by the fashion industry, which is more than sea and air transport altogether. So we definitely must act. So we've seen the AGEC law, who is pushing brands to recycle and donate. But consumers have not waited for this law to integrate the 4R principles, which are reuse, recycle, reduce, and repair. In Europe, the second-hand stores exploded by 140% between 2019 and 2021, particularly with the app Vinted, which is a European app to sell your own clothes. And the European consumer is now used to check on second-hand before buying new garments. Donation is part of consumers' action of goodwill, and we see new brands using the upcycling concept. So consumers push our economic system to mutate. And since the pandemic, consumers have changed their habits. Like 65% of Europeans are planning to purchase more durable fashion items. Then we have 50% of the Generation Z and Millennial who expect to purchase more items secondhand. They are the ones who will live the change and expect things to happen. Then you have 80% of Europeans that agree that we aim to be climate neutral by 2050. So the European consumers are now very more careful on brands' value, and they want to see concrete evidence on social and environmental commitment. For brands, it is not profitable to offer secondhand and donate the unsold goods. So they must think differently. So I would like to focus on how technology can help in filling the two R. So that's reduce and instead of repair, rethink. Rethink where it fits better and how fashion can readapt. Excuse me. So how 3 can help in being more sustainable? If we look at the overall product life cycle versus pollution and carbon footprint, we have a very clear zone of where it could be improved, knowing that each are interdependent. So if we're able to rethink each zone, we can create a better cycle. So let's see how. Obviously, we're going to start with design department. And to search for inspiration, there are artificial intelligence softwares for trend forecasting. Thanks to that, brands can target and select what their customer profile will look on the web. So you would have Instagram, you'd have TikTok, competitors, catwalks, etc. And that will help designers to understand better and foresee where consumer trends will go. And these softwares will provide a sharper analysis to colors forecasting, future shapes, and prints rather than betting on forecasting guess. And some editors will provide 3D shapes to designers so they can really work upfront on the volume and their ideas to create their silhouettes. When a designer wants a physical sample, he will require some fabric sampling so he can get a prototype to see the overall look. I think you all know that. The fabric supplier usually has some metrage in stock and will send out 5, 10 meters or a roll. And in average, a roll weighs around 12 kilos and is sent to the brand to make a sample. So here's some number when a designer requests a fabric sample from China and is sent to France, and another example from Italy to France versus a digital fabric downloaded via online. With digital fabric catalogs, designers can check out fabric sourcing to fulfill their inspiration. And if you have a fabric swatch, it's possible to scan it and check out on 3D before requesting a sampling metrage. And that can really help a designer in decision making for fabric choices without even requesting a physical sample. Now, let's have a look in product development. My slide says it all. We have multiple sample requests and send back and forth for modifications until we have an OK for salesman. And some brands can request up to 6 samples for development and many more salesman samples for collection presentation. So if you think of pollution behind a prototype, you have a lot. You have fabric dyes, finishes, transport, back and forth. And most of the time, all the developments that you've done, all the garments you would have requested, they would have been destroyed or thrown away at the end of the collection. Multiply by the number of references, carbon footprints, and cost, and then exploding the ceiling. Working with 3D will help in checking out fitting and style approval before launching the salesman. So, on the side of CSR, most fashion brands work in silo. So, you have the designer first, then the pattern maker, and all of them are used to touch and see in real. So, working with 3D requires a change and a state of mind, a new way of working, and new habits. So, change management is very important in this part to take out the best of 3D. So that's a concrete example of the carbon footprint of a male suit pants. So the yarn comes from Australia. It is then sent to Italy for weaving and dyeing. Then the fabric was sent to a Bulgarian factory where a sample is made. The sample is already sent to is then sent to the head office, which will be based in France. So from the yarn to the head office, the trousers weigh exactly 75 kilos of CO2 that needed 3,000 liters of water that was for dyeing and finishes of the fabric. So, as you can see, you have some software specialized in calculating the cycle of life of a product. And this technology is emerging and will become very essential with the Eco Score label when it will become compulsory. With 3D, we get a much smaller carbon footprint, and that includes the overall development stage, as you can see the numbers. Let's now have a look on production, where it is closely linked to retail. So today you get 30% of returns that are due to fitting issues. And this is very costly for the brands. You get return costs, warehouse costs, refunds, and a bad image according to the customer. So the ideal is to make sure that your grading is fitting your customer's morphology before producing. And that's where 3D can help. So that's a strong example. So we have 3 French sizes, 36, 40, 46. What we see is that on size 46, it looks pretty tight around the thighs and the hips. So when you check out the pattern, we can notice that grading was not done properly at the bottom. Actually, this kind of grading can actually be unnoticed until size 40, maybe 42, because of the ease of the style. But on bigger sizes, obviously, it will not fit and it's most likely be returned. So we modify the pattern and check again. In real life, it's very difficult to find models outside standard size base. With 3D, it is possible to check on all sizes. You check out the fitting maps, the fabric pressure on the body, and similar are all similar on all sizes, as you can see on the picture on the right. And that's most likely going to make all clients happy. Now we go to the transport. So it doesn't involve technology, but transport is present in many steps of the product life. And that's very important to me to point out this is where you can reduce your carbon footprint. And to be honest, really, the closer we are to our production site, the better. That's the final area. Let's have a look at retail. So traditionally, visual merchandisers need real sample to work on their demo store. And since design has been created from the beginning in 3D, then the visual merchandiser can visualize and optimize the collection life in store at the same time as collection developments happens. And this way, it can actually help in defining the number of references, provisional quantities, and your turnover, and hopefully the stock that you need to reduce. And like I previously said, you need to be close to your consumers to know him better. So I was saying that retail was linked to production. Well, stores can help in getting measurements via body scan and have accurate data for the target that you're aiming at. And that will help in reducing returns too. So here is an overall of the product life cycle and where 3D and its ecosystem can help in improving CSR. If we think back to the 4R principles, rethinking our way to create and sell will help the other R's, which are reduce, recycle, and reuse, which will create a virtuous cycle. So that leads us to the end of my presentation. So here is what you need to remember. Rethinking product life cycle with 3D and new technologies can help in reducing your carbon footprint and water consumption. European brands are challenged by laws to the fully sustainable before January 2030, and that's tomorrow. And it's also a global issue. So, for sure, it will affect Asian and US markets. And working differently with new technologies require support in change management and time. It will not happen in one season. You need to take time to adapt and have new habits and new process. And last but not least, since we're all consumers, it is our duty to push fashion brands to change. So let's integrate the 4R in our life: recycle, reuse, reduce, and repair. So that's it for me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. We really appreciate you coming to share that with us. I believe there's some comments and questions for you. So if you get a chance, if you can head over to our YouTube channel, feel free to answer some of them there. Thank you so much.